What is up, everybody? Welcome back to RacingDudes.com and welcome to one of our big-time previews for the Saratoga race meet. We are kicking things off this Thursday, July 11th. It's going to be a lot of fun. We've got Saratoga for 40 days, obviously 40 days of this meet. Del Mar will be mixed in starting next week. But for this week, it's all about Saratoga. So for this video, I wanted to do kind of the 5 betting tips, trends, things that you kind of need to know going into Saratoga. Not specific courses, but more about how the track plays, trainers, things like that. So, again, they're kind of going to be 5 overall general topics that I'm going to talk about. And we're going to talk about track biases to kind of get it started. So the number one thing, we'll talk about the main track first. So what you need to know about the main track at Saratoga, and again, when I make statements like this, they're general statements. There will be days here or there where maybe the trends get a little bit bucked for whatever reason, whether it be weather or whatever. But anyway, overall, on the main track at Saratoga, talking about the dirt track, speed. Speed is what you want. Whether it's going long or short, either one, you want to have early speed. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to go gate to wire, but you want to be forwardly placed in these races. So when you're looking at a race and it's kind of 50-50 on who you want to go with, and you're between a couple of horses, take that horse that you think is going to have the best tactical advantage from a speed standpoint. And most of the time that works out very well. So the main track, sprint, route, doesn't really matter. Speed, being on or near the lead, that's always going to be the best option. Within 2 lengths is kind of what I always kind of the gauge of, like, hey, if a horse can sit within 2 lengths, that's probably good enough to make a little bit of a run. And especially when it rains, actually. So when the main track gets sloppy, I think it just amples up the speed situation. I think horses, again, general statements here, but for the most part, horses on or near the lead really, it increases their chances once that track gets sloppy. And just think about Belmont Stakes day and really weekend, but day. Think of how many horses won on or near the lead. A lot of them, even the Belmont Stakes, Mind Frame was sitting right there. So if he goes on and runs straight, it's like, well, he was on or near the lead. And the winner, Dornoch, was on the lead, basically him and Seize the Gray kind of going head to head. And look, I mean, that's kind of how it was all week, whether it be sprints or routes. You just had to be near the front on most of these races, to get the job done. So main track, look for speed. Now let's move to the turf course. Number 2 talking point here. Let's move to the turf courses. I should say there's 2 of them. This gets a little bit more tricky. I really like speed in route races still. It's the NYRA circuit kind of speed wins the turf route races a lot of the times, no matter the surface. So especially on the inner track, I really think it plays to speed on the inner track when going 2 turns, but the outer track as well. So both turf courses, when we're going routes, I think speed makes a lot of sense. I've noticed in turf sprints, now it's not all the time, but I think the closers have a little bit fairer of a chance on turf sprints than they do the routes at Saratoga. Again, I don't think the turf really plays as strongly as the main track to speed. I still think even in the turf sprint, speed is still your best option. However, I do think the closers come into play a lot more in turf sprints here at Saratoga. The inside turf course, the inner turf course, look, I think you want those inside posts in that situation. So definitely look for that on the inner turf course. You don't want to be far outside. You really get fanned out wide in that final turn, and well, in the first turn as well. If you are, one of those outside posts, so look for the inside post positions on the inner turf course. I definitely think that makes a big time difference on that track specifically. And then finally, I think when the turf gets yielding or soft or even good, I do think that's when speed tends to really be tough to hold. We saw it last year. A lot of come from behind horses on the turf course. If you remember last year, that was a really soft turf course for a lot of the meet. Right now, we haven't seen a ton of rain up at Saratoga, so I expect, some firm turf courses as we start the meet. Of course, we do know that rain in the summer at Saratoga, that could pop up at any time, but it's kind of been drier this year leading up to the meet, so that might help those turf courses a little bit. But if it does get soft, it does get yielding, look for the closers a lot more. I really think that elevates closers' chances when that turf course is not firm up at Saratoga. And again, it's kind of a total opposite. In the main track, I think when it rains, speed is going to be really prevalent. In the turf course, I would look for more closers when that happens. So, all right, let's get to talking point number 3. We'll talk about the trainers first. So the trainers will be our talking point number 3. There's 3 that you obviously have to know: Chad Brown, Linda Rice, Todd Pletcher. What do I really need to tell you that you probably don't already know if you're watching a horse racing video? Those 3 are going to win. They're going to win a lot. So just be ready for that. I'll give you a couple of names to watch for, though, that aren't kind of those main guys. So they're not going to take all that money, but they are very good about spotting horses up here. I think Norm Cassie is one you really got to watch for. You saw him do it last year, win at a very high percentage. He's very selective with what he brings up to Saratoga. And I think that's a good thing, because I think, and the one thing Norm Cassie has kind of shown since he started his training career, he's pretty good about spotting horses. He knows what horses fit where. And if he's bringing one up to Saratoga, he's not bringing it up just to mess around. He's probably got a spot picked out that he thinks that horse can win. So Norm Cassie, certainly one you need to look at. George Weaver, kind of more of a local trainer as far as the NYRA circuit goes. Not that Norm doesn't run at NYRA, but George Weaver is a name you see in the program a little bit more often. He's also very good about spotting his horses. So, he's good about finding the spots that make sense for his horses, and he can come up here and he can win, and sometimes win at a price as well. So Norm Cassie, George Weaver, 2 guys to keep an eye out for that aren't the big 3. Obviously Brown, Chad Brown, Linda Rice, Todd Pletcher, they're going to win a lot of races. You're going to have to use them. You can't try to beat them all the time, but there are spots you can beat them. Guys like Cassie and Weaver are 2 to kind of keep an eye on. Also with Steve Asmussen, I would look out for his 2-year-olds up here. I think he's going to have a big 2-year-old meet. He usually does. Usually with Asmussen, you can kind of count on him really showing up with some good 2-year-olds, and then a few of his higher end horses will be able to win the stakes races. Those middle in-betweeners, maybe not as much with him. I think his horses spread out all over the country. He's kind of, like Norm Cassie in a way, although he has a lot more horses to choose from. But he knows what he needs to bring up to Saratoga that can be competitive, and what he needs to leave at other tracks, say like an Ellis, just an example, or a Lone Star. So I think if you see Asmussen 2-year-olds up there, it means they're his top ones at this time. They usually show up and they fire well. And then obviously his big time horses as well will be in with chances. So keep an eye on Asmussen with those 2-year-olds. All right. Talking point number 4, if I could talk here, the jockeys. And obviously this is Irad's world, right? He almost doubled up the amount of wins versus him last year, and the second place finisher, which was his brother, Jose Ortiz. So Irad Ortiz Jr., obviously you got to keep an eye out for him. He's going to ride for the big outfits. I think the only time you can really kind of, because look, he's just going to ride for all the big ones. But if he's riding for some of the smaller barns, it will kind of mean that horse is live. Unfortunately, that's not a secret, and other people are going to see that as well. But you might get a little bit better of a price on horses that he rides for smaller barns that aren't those power barns. So that's kind of the only angle. There's really no angle, though, for finding like value on Irad. But he's going to win. You're going to have to use him some, no doubt. The rest of these jockeys up here, the next bunch, I should say, they're all very good. I mean, Luis Saez and Jose Ortiz, those guys, if they're on your horse, I wouldn't be too worried about it, right? Flavian Pratt, obviously another one. So, but it is going to be Irad's world. We know that for sure. But there's plenty of capable riders up there. I don't think there's anything to be too concerned about if you've got some of those guys I just listed on your horse. One angle, and this angle was taught to me by Ricky Pasternak. I'll give him a shout out here. Jose Lezcano at a price. Jose Lezcano on the turf. 2 very big things to keep an eye on here. He always hits at a pretty solid percentage. He's usually riding horses that are a little bit higher priced. Than not a little bit, a lot higher priced than these main jockeys. He's very capable. He does very well here at Saratoga. So Jose Lezcano, kind of the under the radar jockey. Make sure you keep an eye on him. Make sure you keep an eye on what he's doing. He'll probably come up here and hit it 15 to 18% and get some long shots home. And if you kind of have that in the back of your mind, maybe you can catch a couple of them, and either whether it be win picks or exactas tries or getting you through to a big pick 4 or pick 5. So Jose Lezcano, that's kind of the unheralded one that we needed to talk about. And that's kind of my tip for you on the jockey side of it. All right, the 5th talking point, and this is one thing you need to remember. It's the graveyard of champions. It's not the graveyard of favorites. Favorites win at Saratoga a lot. It's not uncommon to see 3 or 4 favorites win on a day at Saratoga. That is something that it happens, and happens a lot. A lot of people get that twisted. A lot of people think they hear that graveyard of champions and they translate that to favorites, and they think it's this crazy long shot track where all this shit's going to happen. Look, you get long shots coming in at Saratoga, for no doubt, but you get a lot of favorites coming in too. So it's not the worst thing in the world if you really like a favorite to just play that horse and get you through to the next race. Favorites win a lot up here. It's become the graveyard of champions because of those high caliber champions that have gotten beat up here over the years. So keep that in mind. A lot of people were talking about, you know, for the Belmont Stakes, it's like, oh, Sierra Leone, you know, graveyard of champions. It's like, he's not a champion of anything. I mean, he still lost, yes, but that's different. That was a favorite, right? Where graveyard of champions would be like American Pharaoh, who lost in the Travers. His only loss of the season came up at Saratoga. That type of thing tends to happen a lot up here. But the favorites win a lot. So just keep that in mind. This is not a crazy long shot track. I think Del Mar is more of that crazy long shot where maybe that's the graveyard of favorites. Saratoga is more just the graveyard of champions. So keep that in mind. If you like a favorite, don't think that it can't win. They win up here a lot. All right, guys, that'll do it for my 5 kind of talking points before we kick off this Saratoga meet. It's going to be awesome. It's my favorite meet of the year. I absolutely love it. It's going to be great racing, 40 days of just fantastic racing, and I can't wait to get it started. So for full coverage of Saratoga every single day, go to racingdudes.com. Check out the free picks. Go to the products page if you want exactas, tries, pick 3s, pick 4s, pick 5s, all of that stuff. We've got it covered. It's our favorite meet. Every day we'll have it totally covered. The major stakes races also will be covered on this YouTube page. We'll have plenty of videos, including this week, the Schuylerville Diana and the Sanford, all coming to you later this week. So we got a lot to do, a lot going on. Stay tuned to the YouTube page, and more importantly, stay tuned to the website for all the coverage of Saratoga. All right, guys. Thanks, guys, and we will see you all meet long at Saratoga.